Christina, and morning all. Thanks for joining. So, as Christina said, this is it's one of the first for us to share what we've learned along the way and what we're still learning. Cook, and it's one of them words, I suppose. Journey is used too much, but we are on a journey. There's a long way for us to go as a business still, and we're still learning. But basically, we are a triple bottom line business. We are looking after people, planet, and profit. And I know some people out there saying, profit? You mentioned profit. Profit is not a dirty word. We all need to make profit to be able to change the dial in the way we do business. Um, the way Cook, I suppose, started many, many years ago, 1997, one of the first shops opening in Tunbridge Wells. It was all to do with community. It was all to do with partnerships. So when I talk about our supply base and our suppliers, I see them as a partner in our business. They are part of the family, as we say, within Cook. And without them, what we do is not possible. So the journey that we started being a small business with one or two suppliers back in the day, it was relatively simple, I would say. Life was a lot easier. Strong personal relationships were key. And as Cook has grown up over the years, we've had to work really, really hard to preserve them relationships and the spirit of the partnership that we've got with them. We work with a much broader network now, but we still prioritize that honest, open relationships. But there's no denying it. Growth has brought complexity. We've managed it very well so far. And the way we do that is about our values and about choosing our partnerships, who we align with. Now that comes from the top, really. It's a lot easier if you've got founders of the business that believe in doing business the right way. As Christina touched on, Cook was one of the first founding B Corps in the UK. And we've used that as a bit of a self-auditing process to hold ourselves to account. To this day, we still have a progress report that we publish online. Anyone can download it. Any of our customers, any of our suppliers, any of our partners can download that. And we publish all the good stuff that we've done and anything that, we've not really hit the goals on that we wanted to do, just to hold ourselves to account. Growth, like I said, has brought that complexity, but the way we have done it is by sharing values. Our sustainability journey started many, many years ago, and we really didn't have, I suppose, the knowledge that we needed, and we wish there was more and more people out there that could have shared that knowledge at the beginning with us. So we built up that community, we built up that partnership, using our B Corp partners as well to help share knowledge. And we put basically these plans, values in place with actions. And obviously you'll be hearing from Tracy later on, but one of the great stories, I think, was looking at local businesses around us that were like-minded, that were already doing some amazing stuff, and they shared their knowledge. And what we found really early on in our path with our impact team was we was doing a lot of the work, but we didn't have the data to back it up. So we was doing the work, but not recording the data. And that's where that came in. And that really helped us really to push ourselves on and hold ourselves to account to drive the business forward in a more sustainable way. And by no means are we perfect. We have got so much to learn still. And every day is a learning day, but it's about making sure that every step, them small wins that you're doing with yourselves in your own businesses and your supply chain makes a difference. And I think that's vital. So, we choose our partners to be the best that they can. We will work with these partners. We've got some suppliers that we've had to let go over the years, and it's a difficult thing to do, but there's some nice stories behind that as well, which is quite good. And I'll just touch on one, which is Howes and Moore was one of our original first fishmongers, and they started with us back in 1999, and they worked with us all the way up until 2011. And they actually approached us and said, Tony, look, you're getting too big for us now. The cash flow, everything you were trying to do, and the route you're going is not the route that we would like to go. And it was quite nice for them to approach us as a business and say that you need to bring on some other suppliers. Um, and I think the only reason why that worked is because of the relationship we had, open, transparent relationship from the beginning. So we've pushed on. We've got a broader network. We've got broader suppliers with obviously their own challenges as well that we're working with, and we're working with as many local UK suppliers as we can, but we also work further afield as well. Advice, I suppose, on how to build the relationships with, if you're struggling on that sustainability side, I'd say make sure you start with them shared values, the sustainability goals that you're going after, because that then means you're building up trust. We found that transparent, open communication works really well. And just invest a bit of time understanding your partners and your suppliers, understand their challenges, because everyone will have different challenges. And I would say it's not just about food. It's all encompassing. It's about making sure you're using that sustainability across the whole business. And yes, it is easier if that's coming from the top and you've got shareholders and family members are all aligned. It's a bit difficult when you are a business really trying to drive a business because the shareholders want a big return. But I think as long as you've got the right group of people and the structure around it, you can change that dial. And it's not just me on the call saying that. Hopefully, Tracy will be able to join in a minute and just discuss what they've been doing at a farm level and some of the challenges they really face as a farmer in the industry.
Do you want me to step in now?
Yes, please, Tracy. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think, Tony, you sort of pretty much said a lot of, well, I'm probably going to repeat a lot of what you said because we started in 2012 and Graham and I have worked in the potato industry for a long time, and Provenance, it was started from an ethos of quality, collaboration, trust, and provenance, hence the name. Our farmers had been in a cooperative in the 60s called Kent Veg, and I think even now in 2025, the values that were started in the 60s, they would recognise today. And it's really important to us to work together. And we are very transparent in what we do. There is a lot of trust, and we've had farmers come and farmers go, but it's very much one for all for one. And we like that throughout the supply chain. So when Tony approached us in 2017, it really echoed what we were trying to do. And it was really, the relationship with COOK is mutually beneficial in myriad ways. And it's really helped Provenance and our farmers to achieve more sustainable working, because not only do we want to produce high quality potatoes, but we want to produce them not at the expense of the soil and the water usage and the biodiversity and ecosystems, local ecosystems. But also we want to maintain the rural economy. There's a lot of people rely on jobs in farming, and there's a lot of challenges out there, not just the climate, but solar panels, housing, water usage, that sort of thing. And so getting on board with a customer and having such a good relationship has really helped making our business and our farmers' business really sustainable, which has been great. And Tony, if there's a challenge, I know that he's approachable and I can ring him up and we can discuss it. And he understands, and they come and visit. You know, Tony's brought the team down to visit our farmers, so then he can really get what we're coming at, and we can show him what we do as well. But farming is becoming increasingly more challenging, and actually producing potatoes is becoming more challenging because I don't have to tell you, cost of producing stuff is going through the roof, and it's a difficult thing. But you have to look at every win, and our motto from very first was every tuber counts, and that we pack and wash down in Kent. So we've got a two-tier business. We do half of our production down in Kent, and we wash it into bags, and we supply local wholesalers, schools, hospitals, restaurants, and the cook business. But then we also do send our potatoes out on lorries to supermarket packers, and those two sides of the business complement each other quite a bit. But we sort of the restaurants and such only want a particular type of potato, but we had potatoes that didn't look great, but they cooked well, they're perfectly all right, and they still cost the same as a quality potato to grow. And we used to ship them off out of the county, and they're the sort of potatoes that are perfect for cook. And having the cook business meant that we didn't have to ship them out of the county. We could pack them here, produce more work for our workforce here, give a better, fairer return to the grower. And then Cook had potatoes that Tony could trust would cook, were grown sustainably, were delivered on time, all these sorts of things. It was a real win-win for both of us. And that was a real game changer for us in 2017. And we started off with half the business, didn't we, I think, or a little bit of the business. And now we are sole supplier to Cook. And if, sort of we want to try different things. So we've got a project going on at the moment to look at using other potatoes that we don't supply Cook to see if that works, because I want Cook to get the best yield and with the less production time, so that we can get a better result for Cook, and also use potatoes that we don't sell to them at the moment. So another win-win, and that's great. And we've looked at using excess packaging as well, so it keeps the waste down. And looking at or talking to Tony about some of the things they've worked with other suppliers, we've implemented that, sort of bees and working with the RSPB. And so there's so many things that we've learned. And I think, Tony, you've got a better understanding of potato growing, because probably in previous supplier, maybe it was a bit more detached, but we've been very open. And I think it's really important that Tony understands the challenges that we face. But rather than going to him with a problem, it's just making him aware. But we have to sort of find the solution, but we find the solution together. And, sort of we've got, we've just this week, we're involved with a group called WAG, which is a water action group, because water in the southeast is quite a problem. And, it's things like that, looking at ways of maximising water usage. And Graham, who's the agronomist side, he's very much involved with smart water. So looking at ways on using technology to use less water for growing, and all these sorts of things. And that gives a better story as well for Cook, because we provide potatoes that have a great story for him, for Tony. And I think that's a real positive as well. But going forward, we've got more and more challenges. And I think that's probably the same with all businesses, isn't it? But I know that I've got the trust with Cook that we can work things through together, and our farmers as well. So they know, and our farmers love getting the chefs down and showing things. And I think, was it March, Tony and the team came down. And I think what's fabulous is that Tony and the team can stand in that field and go, these potatoes, which are only grown, I think, 10 miles from our pack house and 20 miles from the Cook kitchen, these potatoes will end up in our fish pie, etc. And it was great for your team to be there and ride in the tractor and see and talk to the farmer, because we've had a number of difficult years. Last year, it never stopped raining. And it's important that customers understand the implications of these things and the difficulties. And I think another thing that I've learned from COOK is you don't always win. So I remember reading in your progress report and your pack about the you had an aim for carbon footprint and you didn't achieve it because something went wrong. And I thought, great, because you read on social media, everybody's, yeah, I've done this and I've done that. And you think, well, we've had a bad year because yields were affected. So our carbon footprint is actually worse than the year before. But actually own it and not be ashamed of that. It's nothing you can do, but your intentions are good, intention. And we've one of the few potato companies that have done our carbon footprint. And a couple of years ago, we did all scope 3, and we've done scope 1 and 2 through last year, and we hope to keep doing it, and then understanding where the carbon use is and where we can help and reduce, which is quite difficult with potatoes because nitrogen fertilizer is the biggest one. But you can look and say, all right, I'm going to try something else. And then we can feed that back to COOK and say, all right, we've reduced our carbon footprint. So your potatoes are even more environmentally friendly. So it's been, yeah, I think I can't say enough really that to meet a customer that aligns with your ethos is great, and it's a real validation. I think I said earlier, it was when we were having a prep, that when we started Provenance and we went to the bank and we said, right, we want to share, we want to be collaborative, we want to work with our farmers, they need to be part of our company, not at a distance. And I was sort of laughed at, going, well, that's not how business works. And I thought, well, it is, surely it is. And I think now it's more prevalent, and we've always thought we work with customers that believe in that, and we found a few. We've lost some on the way because they just want the cheapest potatoes going. They don't care what they are, they don't care how they're grown, and well, buy. And we've had farmers as well who don't believe in the collaborative working. They want to take and they want the knowledge transfer and they want the expertise, but they go, well, no, I want the best price. I'm not interested in Mr. Smith down the road. Whereas all our farmers, it's one for all for one. And that gives us tremendous strength. And as the years have gone on, they're working together. We've bought machinery, we share storage. I mean, you only have to see on Clarkson's farm the cost of these big kits, and you can't keep buying new kit all the time. So we do a lot of that so we can be as competitive as possible. Cold storage, the electricity has been going up. By sharing storage, we can keep that cost down, and it means less carbon emitted as well. And then the knowledge transfer, we're part of Cambridge University Potato Growers, and Graham goes to that. He hears what they're doing. We try things, we trial stuff, we trial new varieties, and then we let our farmers know that, and we try it all out, and they trust us that we know we're doing it for the greater good. And if it doesn't work, then we we support them on that. But if it does work, great. And it's the same with like the trying different nitrogen fertilizer. We're trying different things, but if you are affected because it doesn't work with yield, it can be pretty catastrophic for a farmer's return. So we have to be mindful of that. And but it's worked. I mean, we still have the core main growers 13 years on, and we have a few extra ones that we started working with. But everybody is interested in right. So pollinator mixes. We buy the pollinator mix, and the farmers plant up any uncultivated area next to the potato fields or along margins or whatever, and it's great for biodiversity. And we had a couple of, when we first started doing it, a couple of farmers were going, why do we want to do that, what's the point, and then the next year I discovered that they wanted more, and they were putting sunflowers in, and they were doing their own mixes, and they fabulous. And it's trying to get all them on board, and they are sort of, and then they'll talk to the next farmer, and they'll tell them, oh yeah, that's a great idea, and so that's really worked well, being open and honest with them. So yes, but I think that's about it.
Tracy, thank you. And obviously, I think the key things there is just about relationships, and you are one of 150 of our suppliers, and like you, we've had the same relationship in terms of trying to move stuff on. And I think it's all to do with that relationship of going after the goals, being clear with timelines and your ambition and shared values. And I think it works really well. And I think the work that we've done with you guys has been fantastic. And that we're still doing, even like we touched on there. And obviously, that is, I think, to everyone on the call, that's just about food. And as I was saying at the beginning, it's not just about food. The sustainability runs through the business in terms of COOK, in terms of our people, in terms of the relationships we hold. And it can cross over, whether it's buying potatoes, produce, meat, or whether you're buying equipment, machinery, photocopiers, and things like that. And we have got internally our own sort of push on our own on our people, our welfare of the people that we employ, and we do a lot of work on. We call it basically it's called a Raw Talent Program, which stands for Ready and Working, and that is supporting getting more people back into the business from basically from a prison scheme. Now, obviously, we celebrate 10 years of this, and Rosie Brown, our co-CEO, has taken over the helm of the chair of the Employment Advisory Board recently, and it's a really good scheme. And this is about making sure that we've got people coming back into the business, trying to cover them jobs that we want to do. It's not just about having fantastic CVs of people joining a business without giving people a second chance. And here's some of the quotes you can see on the screen that people have said about the program. But I think what is really good is if Christina, we've got the video, I'm hoping it's going to work because it's quite a powerful video. And this is just, it's not, it is standing up and saying, it's a great thing to do, but this is just showing what other businesses can do out there. And it's not just about the food, it's about being sustainable with your staff and making sure that you can have more staff join and giving someone a second chance.
Oh no, demo's on the call.
It's not working. Okay, I can feel for a bit. No problem. So I will talk about the actual scheme then. So as we've said, it's 10 years we celebrated the actual the Raw Talent Program, and this is about anyone coming out of prison struggling to find a job, getting a second chance. They'll have criminal convictions, time in prison, might be homelessness as well. They might have mental health, previous addictions, and things like that. And what we do, we work closely with the prisons and probation service and job centres to try and get these people back into work, and it gives them a really good sense of. Let me see if that can work.
I popped the link into the chat so people can actually watch it afterwards, or if you can get it playing from your end, Tony. I think unfortunately the sound wasn't working.
No problem. Sadly, let me try and see if I can get that to work.
Danica could try and pop it up for us. She's our tech whiz.
No problem. I'll carry on. So it's a fantastic program. Like I said, it really does. It stems back from the DNA within COOK 27 years ago, 28 years ago, when the business really first started with Ed's family, in terms of having people. They gave people second chances when making sandwiches in the cakes and casserole and the coffee shop. Or someone said they can play from their screen.
Yeah.
That'd be very kind.
Okay, let me share that.
Fantastic.
Is that working?
Work.
Okay.
I think we need the sound though. That's big.
Oh, hang on. Okay, wait a minute. Let me unshare. Stop sharing. Stop share. I think I've got to share with her.
So while we're trying to
Share
get our video
sound.
playing, that's very kind.
Share.
Spectrum disorder.
Not being able to read and write.
Low
Yeah.
confidence.
Not when you've been homeless.
Or if you're struggling with mental health.
I was out of work for 3 years. 3 long years.
Not having that income. It was really, really hard.
Mentally, it was wearing me down.
I was finding it hard to go to interviews and build my confidence back up. And that's when I was introduced to Raw Talent.
I had to do the training. I thought it was kind of hard because you had to talk about your past. You know, you're opening up your whole life.
The training was amazing. It was amazing. Sometimes it felt tough to look at yourself because you hadn't looked at yourself for a long time.
So the training helped people understand that they are worth something.
And I came for an interview with COOK and my world changed. Working, no matter where you are, is so fulfilling. Instantly self-worth back and dignity back.
They give you that second chance, what most employers don't give you, you know?
You felt instantly, these guys want us here. They wanted us here because they wanted us to succeed.
I feel 10 years too late to the party, but I'm there now.
It allowed me to have all the little benefits that I've always wanted but never had, you know? A couple of suits in the wardrobe. Oh, hey, that's a bit of me.
This is where I belong. If you don't give people a chance, they may never get a chance.
You need diversity. If you don't have diversity, your company will not be as good as it could be.
Without COOK, I would, well, I don't think I'd be here. I don't think I'd be here at all.
Kelly, thank you so much for sharing.
Pleasure.
So obviously that's just giving you a taste of what the Raw Talent Scheme has done. And to this day, of them 200 that joined the scheme, we've still got 52 working in the business now. And that is about just relationships. That is about making sure the culture is right within the business. And that really does come from the top. That comes from that comes from having the leadership from the business, about culture, about people, and that is transferred into our supply chain. And that's how we've done that. We've transferred that to make sure that our suppliers know that if as I said, over the years we had a few suppliers that have had to leave us because we wasn't the right fit. They didn't want to go down the sustainability route with what they were trying to achieve. That wasn't part of their plan, and that is totally fine. And we parted company on very good terms and still share knowledge. In fact, we don't work with one of these suppliers, but we're still sharing some of the knowledge now, and they've started to go on this journey. So it might have been 6-7 years later, but they've started to pick up some bits because actually they think they can change the way they were working and try and help. As I said, as a business, we are still learning ourselves. It's very, it is very difficult, and I'm sure there'll be some people on the call be saying, "Okay, Tony, that's fantastic, but we're not in food, we're not in supply chain, not in food supply chain. How does that work, and how can that transfer to, say, I don't know, photocopiers or buy machinery?" And it's all about the framing that partnership. So it's about starting with a conversation. You're not demanding this conversation, looking at sustainability across the whole supply chain, the way you plan, the way you operate, including, as you saw there, your own staff and your own teams. Make it relevant, I suppose. Make it relevant for you as a business and for your partners that you're working with. So if it's, as we touched on and said, photocopy, focus on paper sourcing, FSC certified, energy efficient printers, recycling. How can you recycle printers with a customer? reusable products. These are the sort of things that you can tackle to try and get that conversation going. And then look at, I suppose, environmental policies and certifications that you're doing with your suppliers. What steps could you do to reduce carbon footprint as one action? How do you handle your waste? This is something that as a business, you can imagine going back to food, we have a lot of food waste. We don't call it food waste anymore. It's called surplus, because we found that a lot of end of line product that we're generating is perfectly good food. And we share that with, we've got a local charity up the road for us that we supply 88 meals a day with. You've got other companies out there, Fair Share and City Harvest, that you can send and donate meals, and I'm sure many people do. It's just little bits, they all add up. And I would say as well, share your sustainability goals. Share it with your partners, share it with internally to get that buy-in, and your customers as well. At the end of the day, the customer is there to support. So if I've got key takeaways from me, which I think is, as I've put up here, so start with a shared values, be clear about your sustainability goals, invest in relationships, get to know your partners and suppliers personally where possible, because that builds connection. You buy and sell and you work with people you enjoy, and also that have the right values. Don't underestimate being a good listener. Understand the pressures. You heard Tracy there, some of the pressures that they've been explaining, and we had the farmers on site in the kitchens talking to the chefs as they're cooking, understanding the pressures they're under, means that it's a little bit more easier to digress what's going on. Think long term. Think long term. It doesn't happen overnight. Celebrate the wins and celebrate the small steps, and stay accountable. Track your progress and just be honest. As I said, we're still learning, so please get in touch. My email address is at the bottom. We'd love to learn from you guys out there, and we're happily share all of our knowledge that we've got to try and help. It's about working in partnership with each other to just get better.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tony and Tracy, for taking the time to tell us more about your businesses and how you're working together. It's just so interesting to hear about that high quality relationship that you've built up, and very inspiring as well. And I have lots of questions, but I'm sure there are many in the group as well. So if anyone would like to pop their hand up or pop a question in the chat, please feel free. There were quite a few comments about that video, and I agree. It gave me goosebumps, and I think the kind of, we very often talk about sustainability from a counting carbon perspective, or sorting out your bins, but it's about people and it's about community and it's about working together. And Tracy kind of touched on the whole collective idea, bringing farmers together. Can we take those ideas and apply them to other industries and figure out how we can build collectives and communities within our business community, so that we're sharing resources and sharing challenges together. And I think that's what Amplifi is about. I'd love to hear from the rest of you. It's sparking ideas for me. It's circular economy. It's kind of community action. But please feel free, if anyone has any questions for Tony or Tracy, pop your hand up or pop it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to quiz Tony and Tracy myself.
I've got a question. I can't figure out how to raise my hand. Firstly, thank you. That was really informative. And also, Tracy, I love your Save Bread, Eat Potatoes poster.
I saw that in the Imperial War Museum and I had to buy it because it had to go up on the wall.
I'm trying to eat less bread, so it's resonating. My question was just, I guess, mostly to Tony. How scalable do you see? Like, obviously, you and Tracy have a really good relationship, and you've obviously invested time in that relationship with your potato supplier. But like you said, there's 150 ingredients or 150 suppliers for the food, plus everything else. Like, how scalable is it to have that good a relationship with all your suppliers, and how do you prioritize? Obviously, I'm assuming you don't have that good a relationship with your photocopier supplier, for instance.
Very good question, Calvin. So yeah, it's hard, as I said at the beginning. When you had 2 or 3 suppliers at the beginning, it's quite easy to do. It is achievable. So I encourage. There's myself. I've got 2 buyers. I've got a head of packaging, and I've got an external buyer. And what I encourage them to do every Friday, when it's a quieter day, is they pick their top 10 suppliers, and they make sure they ring them. And it can be nothing about work. It's just ringing them for a quick 2-3 minute conversation chat. Could be about anything, just to keep that connection and relationship going. I still do it myself. I've actually got one of my buyers on maternity leave at the moment, so I've picked up more of that on a Friday. But last Friday, I rung 10 of our suppliers. I say probably 3 conversations was about business. The rest was all about just having a catch up and just get connection. Because I said in that talk that you buy and sell to people you like, and it's key to have a relationship. Scalable is possible. Transparency, honest, transparent relationship. If things are not going right, make sure you tell them, and they will tell you then, and it makes it a little bit easier when you have a conversation. I don't underestimate how difficult it can be. At the end of the day, we've all come under cost pressures over the last few years, and it's very difficult. But when you've got them shared values and that open transparency, it just makes it a little bit easier to overcome some of these obstacles. And sometimes you don't. Like I said, sometimes you have that difficult conversation and you have to part ways in certain terms. But as long as you end that relationship in the right way, the door is always open to come back and have that conversation.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we've got another question from Jen and then Julia. And after that, Adam as well.
Hi, thank you so much. That was brilliant. My question is more around, I guess, as a supplier to sort of lots of different customers, how do we help to influence the procurement process? Because the way that you just described your relationship sounds fantastic, and we have that partnership with some of our customers, with many of our customers. But when we're pitching for work sometimes, then the procurement process is such for a lot of companies, especially large companies, where there just isn't the opportunity to have proper conversations. It's kind of, you have half an hour slots and you need to present this and you need to tick this box and this box. And you think that's not going to get you the best suppliers in your sort of supply chain. But as a kind of small business selling to lots of large businesses, how do we influence that process, if that's possible? So I guess one for Tony in your head of procurement role.
It's possible. I think it's like you said, we have got suppliers that turn over, say, £80,000 a year, and we've got suppliers that turn over £5.5 billion a year. And the difference is it goes back to relationships, I think, and making sure that when you connect with someone, you hold on to that relationship the best you can. Bigger companies do tend to have more of a higher turnover of relationships, and it's a bit more difficult. And I think what I have found and what my team have found over the years, that as soon as when your account manager or that connection, that relationship you've got with someone goes, it's vital that you go back in, you contacting that new person straight away. If they've not contacted you, you make that first step, and really contact them, meet them face to face. We find with our partners that we get them on the site to come and see COOK, because if you research COOK, it says frozen food. Now, I'm a chef, and frozen food, not all of it is good. Let's be honest. I'm going to be honest. So when you're trying to get a supplier to come to cook, you need to come and see what we're doing, because we do frozen food, yes, but we do it in a different way. So I think if you've got a unique proposition that you've got, get them to come and see what you're doing, get them and understand your business, because that's vital. If they don't understand your business and they just see you as another photocopier supplier or another frozen food company or as another farmer for that moment, you've lost them. So you need to really get them to understand what you're trying to achieve. So get them on site face to face and really getting that connection is strong. Relationships is important. And you've got to get on. You've got to really, and it won't always work. You might find someone that you don't really get on with. And then you've got to work how you can change that around. Is it you parking your own, oh, I don't like that person, but I'm going to get it on? Or is it to do with actually the business has changed direction and they're not going in that same direction as you anymore? And then you have a tough decision to make. It's not easy though. I agree.
Thank you. That's great. And I think it is just having that confidence to sort of say to people, say to procurement teams that actually you've given us this process, but actually can we do something a bit different? Can we have a bit more conversation here, or can we meet up face to face and actually have much more transparent conversations as opposed to the tick box conversations that a lot of procurement conversations end up being?
Exactly.
Yeah, confidence. Thank you. That's great.
Julia, would you like to go next?
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much, Tony and Tracy. That was really fascinating, really great to share both of your stories and your experiences. I'm wondering what advice you would have to a much smaller business. So we are a professional services business. We don't make a product. We're really small. We're a team of 6, and we're in building surveying and compliance consultancy. So our suppliers are completely different. They're things like the people who we rent our photocopier from and who maintain it, the people who bring water for the water cooler. We outsource IT. So we have really different suppliers and they are their own established business. We really have quite little contact with them, if I'm completely honest. There's no kind of day-to-day relationship there at all. What advice would you give us to kind of start connecting with them in terms of sustainability? Because it's quite hard if you don't have a relationship and you just don't have that connection very often. And they're their own business. They have their own goals.
Yeah, yes, I will agree. We've got, so as an example, we've got, all of our kitchens, we've got 3 Savory kitchens in Sittingbourne. They all have a laundry service. They all have a vending machine service that we have on site. The same rules apply, but I think it's about you tailor your conversation to speak their language. And I think so you understand what's important to them. So our laundry supplier for them, as an example, it will be to do with water. It'll be to do with some of the chemicals they're using and things like that. So it's understanding their business, which is what I touched on at the beginning. Understand who you're working with, and you tailor that conversation. But we still have the same relationship. So I still ring my vending supplier like I would do our chemical supplier. I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what service, whether it's a service, an actual cleaning service, or maybe it's the hygiene teams coming in, or it's the photocopier, like we said, a printing service. You're still having that same relationship. But it's about starting with clear goals and ambition. What do you want from them to start with? If you wanting them to come on, if you've got a journey you're going on with your sustainability and you want them to be part of that, it's understanding what's important to them. Because if you're not aligned and they haven't got the same aspirations as you, I guarantee there will be another service provider out there, a printer or a chemical supplier, that has got some of that ethos around at the heart of their business they're going after. And maybe they're the right sort of people that you should be talking to. But I would still approach your existing suppliers and say, this is what we're going after. This is what we want to do. Does that interest your business? Is that something that you're considering? And have that open like Jen just touched on, that open, transparent conversation to start with, because what you will find is that over the space of a year or two, they will come on that journey if it brings value to them as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's great advice. Thanks.
Okay, I think we've probably got time for one more question from Adam before we wrap up.
Hi, yeah. So I think a lot of what I was going to ask about was probably covered in Jen and Julia's question. So we're an ecology consultancy, and so we do like habitat and species surveys. And again, a lot of our impacts would be in the electronic equipment we use, and a lot of our mileage. So I think my question is like how to deal with like suppliers that you're never even going to get near to talk to. So we need sort of high performance tablets for habitat mapping in the field and stuff. So let's say we have Samsung tablets because they're the only ones that would sort of do the job. Now, I imagine Samsung are not the highest on the list of environmental credentials and and workers' rights and stuff like that, but it's the only thing that you can. We all got computers and we all use Microsoft, Google, and all these softwares and stuff. We can go onto their websites and look at their sustainability policies, which and just kind of report back on maybe what they're doing at that level. But is there any advice for like when you get to that sort of multinational global corporate, you can't just pick up the phone and go, "Oh, hi, Steve, how's it going?" You're faced with at best a stock response, and probably automated at this point. You're just going to get we do this, here's our sustainability policy, or and it's where do you go from there, and when that's probably most of your impact and your emissions go into all that kind of stuff.
Well, it's a good question, Steve. Adam, sorry. Where do I start? I suppose have you got a connection with someone within that business that you can form so you can understand the life cycle of the products coming through? Like you said, I know you said that you're not going to get directly to talk to Samsung, but you have got a team there or someone that you're purchasing from that you can form that relationship with. If not, in its understanding, you've got to use these products, I'm guessing, so you can't just switch a product. It's not like an ingredient that you can move around to try and make some standards. So it's understanding what information you really need and what's vital for you, I suppose, for your business. And really saying that these are your missions, these are your goals, and you can go after.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So if you're buying, you touched on, you said Samsung. So are you buying directly? Are you buying through a partner? Is it something?
Well, I mean, it would vary. We tend to try and buy second-hand tablets for a start. So we do that kind of stuff our end. We buy like refurbished electronics and stuff like that. So we can report what we're doing. But ultimately, I'm also interested in like you say, the life cycle of the products and it's the other aspect to this. And I'm sure like Julia probably understands is a lot of the stuff that you're dealing with is not. It's not particularly sort of interesting in that, like, where you're dealing with food ingredients. It's very emotive, farming and food. We all have a stake in that, and there's all the sort of marketing images that go around that, and then the relationships and the tangible effect it has on our lives. Whereas if I'm dealing with softwares and cables and office stuff, there's not that that interesting subject to get into. So it's there's that aspect to it as well.
But there are companies out there, Adam, that we've been approached by a number of telephone companies now, energy companies, PC companies, internet providers that are doing sustainable practices and can provide you with their life cycles. Yes, like most things, they're far and few between, and you have to really work with them to try and get good value for money, because like most things, it does cost a bit more. But there are companies out there. I suppose
we do a lot of that. So we do, like, in terms of our procurement, we do a lot of research to find the best choices for those things.
Yeah.
But it just really starts to fade away a little bit when you have to just buy something off a massive corporation that you sort of, how do I get information out of these people that other than what's on their website?
Yeah, well, my advice has always been, and it has worked for us, that as I said, some of our suppliers are £5-6 billion, and it is hard just talking to the account manager to get information. It's about going through the right channels, using other people, using the people to try and get the information from. LinkedIn has been very useful for me, knowing other people that worked at business where I'm not getting the right information, and they've gave the business a little bit of a nudge to come back with some information. And then once you've got that relationship with that person, you can then start asking the right questions to get information out. Like I said, I've got no magic wand. We're still learning as a business, and even with some of our service providers, our impact team find it very difficult to get the right information out of them, and it is really just banging on them doors and just keep asking the questions.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much, Tony, and to everyone asking really challenging questions. Yeah, there's lots more to talk about. I think what you've highlighted at the end is it's a key challenge for many smaller businesses. How do we have any influence over our supply chain when we are teeny tiny drops in the ocean of these large corporations? Adam, if you're interested, we did have our first webinar on digital sustainability. It's not really about hardware, but it does cover the more cloud-based and kind of other digital aspects of sustainability. It may be of interest to you. And we've just popped the link into our YouTube channel in the chat as well. Please get in touch, pop your contact details into the chat. I'm sure there's knowledge that you can share and learn from each other, because we're all on this journey together, trying to figure out how to kind of influence sustainability from all aspects. But thank you so much to Tony and Tracy for your time. It's been really interesting, fascinating conversation. I've learned a lot. It's always nice to be inspired by businesses who really want to make a difference and have an impact on people, planet, as well as profit. So I really appreciate your time here this morning. I think we could just have a quick pop-up of the poll, see if we've shifted in our views on our supply chain. How do you feel now about your current relationship in your supply chain? Do you feel a bit more positive about what you could do with that? So just pop an answer in there. And then let's see if we've got a bit more of a motivation from Tony or ideas as to what to do there. See if we've got an answer coming through. And while that's coming through, so if you'd like to stay updated on further events in this series, just sign up to our mailing list, which is amplify.tunbridgewells, and that's in the link in the chat. Our next webinar is going to be on the 16th of July, and that's going to be on the topic of greening our journeys, so better transport for better businesses, and that's going to be with Michael Solomon Williams from the Campaign for Better Transport. We're then going to be taking a break for the summer, and we'll come back on the 24th of September to talk with Sarah Flynn, who is a climate change coach, and she will be talking to us about how we can get unstuck and start taking action, which is obviously a key element of this process. We've just had our poll pop up, so I think we've shifted a little bit. We're kind of a few more goods in there in terms of how we're describing our relationship, and then maybe the final poll, just to see where we are. And do you have some more confidence now in engaging with your supply chain? Some ideas at least about what you could do, or who you could talk to in that way. And while we do that, so yeah, if you can share what you've learnt here with anyone else then that's all about increasing our impact. We will be getting in touch with you afterwards with a link to the webinar, which will be going on YouTube, and a follow-up. So please share that with anybody in your network. And we've got a bit more confidence now, which is fantastic. So if you have any ideas of things that you'd like to take action on, please let us know before we just pop off for the rest of our morning. And otherwise, thank you for your time. I know you're all busy people, and please come and join us for our next webinar as well. And thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Have a good
Thank you.